Welcome to the show. We're up and running. It's IB Nation Sports Talk, but it is the special Friday weekly edition of Rapid Fire. Knock on wood, no breaking news today, unlike the Drew Pine news last week that overtook last week's show. But 2/3 of the gang is here. I'm Sean Stires. He's Jesse Stires. Vince DeDario will be with us at some point. He's on his way. This is it's 4:30. We're on obviously earlier than we are usually on during the week, and Vince got kind of hung up at work, I guess. You didn't get hung up though. How are you?
I work from home on Fridays. Vince needs to assert his dominance and maybe work at home. But I don't know if
That's right.
his position actually allows a work from home on Fridays. But that's why I go in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, work from home Mondays and Fridays. And especially on Fridays, it's nice because I can start my weekend as soon as I, shut down the computer essentially. So
yeah.
I think Vince needs to adapt on that style, and maybe he'd be running a little bit better on time. But Vince, he's always seems to have something going on.
Apparently, Brian and Ryan, this is no surprise. They started, I believe, at 2:00, and they are just wrapping up their show right now. So, I was wondering when we started this thing, and Brian just texted me. He said that he just finished, and I'm getting a flurry of texts right now. And let's see. Brian says, okay, I'm just finished. Let everyone know to come over. We need to talk about starting a little bit later, like 5:00. Well, we're trying to do this because, again, when we started doing this, he said, well, you don't have to worry about doing a show on Friday. So we're like, okay. And then once the football season ended, because we got used to doing a Saturday morning show, the IB countdown to kickoff, we said, well, since we're not doing a Saturday show, and this was our idea, me and Vince and you kind of came up with this. We said, hey, what if we do like a little abbreviated rapid fire, just rapid fire on Friday, not a full-fledged show. But I see a lot of people are coming over. USMA 87 was one of the first to come over. Gideon, welcome. Glad to have you with us. And Jersey Bear, you and Brian are on the same time. And so it's good to have you. Good to have you. And Gideon with a hello to you, Jesse.
Hopefully, Brian gave us a shout out. We can roll right in from one show to the other. You can end with a little lighthearted rapid fire.
That's right.
After getting, a big heavy dose of their content from earlier today. I think it's the perfect ending to this Friday. And hopefully, like I said, people are just going to be clicking right over to us. We can, good thing Vince is a little behind. We can allow the students to trickle in for this evening.
That's right. We've got roll call going on right now. Larry is present, and Derek telling me to be the alpha, telling Brian that I run this. He signs the checks, so I'll still go with what Brian says. We may have to adjust. We'll have to see what we can do. We'll have to see how the schedules work out. While we're waiting for Vince, did you see? I didn't even realize this until today. I just saw this on Twitter. Did you see that Lance Taylor is already a head coach? He's just a year removed from being the running backs coach at Notre Dame, was the offensive coordinator at Louisville, and he is now the head coach at Western Michigan.
I did not see that, but I think that is a great fit for him up at Western Michigan. Western Michigan is, a very, very good, what is the word? Presence within the MAC.
You'll have to tell me.
I also saw that Joe Wilkins decided where he will be going next season as a grad transfer, and he will be going to Miami of Ohio. I know it's not, huge breaking news, but that seems like a better fit for someone like Joe Wilkins going forward.
Yeah, and it seems like that's kind of where a lot of guys, not all, but a lot of guys who, decide they're leaving Notre Dame and they haven't been getting playing time and stuff like that, they kind of end up along that route, MAC, group of 5 type level and that kind of stuff. I see big time Gene Wilder. Oh, okay, interesting. Just finished some finals and playing NCAA 14 Dynasty right now. But good to have some people. Like I just saw, who was it that said that they don't usually get to catch rapid fire live. So here we are. Again, this is the special rapid fire. It's a work in progress in terms of what time this is going to be, apparently. Like last week, again, we had the breaking news about Drew Pine. We got started at 4:30. We're off and rolling. Everything is going great. And, so this week we thought 4:30 would be a good time, kind of do it early. We thought it was late enough that Brian's shows might be over by then. But, as Brian himself said, we might have to work on that. And there is Vinny D. And we were just talking, Vince. We got the talk from Brian already. Their show was just wrapping up. And so, we had like 4 people sitting in here when we started this up. And the next thing I know, I get a flurry of texts from Brian, and he said, "Well, we just wrapped our show up and we sent people over to your show." And he's saying that maybe we need to start at 5:00. Going forward.
Well,
so
judging by the fact that I was late today and definitely could have even stayed later at work, maybe 5:00 is not a terrible idea.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Shame on you,
all
Vince.
Right.
Late.
It's all my fault.
Tardy.
I was rocking the IB though all day at school. So
there you go.
Compliments. Just saying.
You go. Well, let's just jump right into it. Hit the like button for all the IB Nation family who has jumped in right now. Hit the like button if you would, and spread the word even more. We'll get some more people in here and mix things up a little bit. Fill in the blank. We'll go, since Jesse was here first, since we're doing honor system, I guess we'll go Jesse and then Vince on this first
like
one.
the good student I am.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
There's got to be a consequence for tardies, Sean, and I will take it. I will take it.
That's right. Jesse's sitting in the front row with his notepad ready to go. He wants the first question. Fill in the blank. You can live with Notre Dame going 8-4 this season as long as blank happens in the next 3 years.
I can live with Notre Dame going 8-4 this season as long as we see 2 playoff appearances, at least 2 playoff appearances in the next 3 seasons, and I think that I can live with maybe another buffer year next year, a non-playoff appearance. But I need to see 2 playoff appearances at least in the next 3 years. I don't want to throw the national championship word out there because that's the goal every year, obviously. But I need to see them back in the playoff conversation. Not even the conversation. They need to be in it, competing, and showing a better performance than what they did from their prior playoff appearances. How about you, Vince?
I hate you right now because you took my exact answer.
I was wondering why you threw your arms up. I was like, surely Vince doesn't think that's too much because you're kind of throwing your hands.
Yeah, that's how I was like, man, that
was my exact answer. And it's actually, to be honest with you, almost a little bit watered down because this isn't year 2, like over the next 3, right? So we're talking Marcus Freeman's first 4 years. So the second year, so the third year overall, second year from now, isn't it the top 12 make it in? Right. So, making the playoff is not going to be even that big of a deal in years 2 and 3 moving forward. Right. So I was thinking more along the lines, though, of top 4. Obviously, they can't be in the top 4 once the new system starts. Right. But yeah, I mean, if let's say it's top 4 make it in. Right. I want them to be top 4 2 out of the next 3 years. I completely agree with Jesse because the way they're stacking recruiting classes, the way we think the coaching staff is doing their thing, the way they're starting to operate in the transfer portal, which obviously will never be to the extent of what everybody wants, but they are getting better at it, and I think they will continue to get better at it. I don't see that is something that's out of the realm of possibility. I would be okay with 8-4. We could all look back and be like, learning experience, brand new head coach, blah, blah, blah. I'm pissed off right now. I don't like 8-4. I'm not happy with 8-4. But if you're telling me we're going to start stacking playoff appearances, okay. I mean, I can have a one-off. It's all right.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm going to go building blocks, though. I'm going to go recruiting stays where it is. And they're doing they're out there. They've been working the nation this week, trying to keep this class together. They had the one decommit, which we talked about yesterday, but otherwise everything has stayed together. It's held together so far. We've got less than 2 weeks to go until signing day. Recruiting stays where it is. They develop a top tier And, like when I say top tier, I'm talking like at least top 10 in the nation, if not better type quarterback. Not this, we can win in spite of this guy, or, game manager type quarterbacks, not that kind of guy. I'm talking about a difference making quarterback, like someone who's potentially going to be in a Heisman conversation, because if you're Notre Dame and you're winning a lot of games,
Absolutely.
your quarterback should be in the Heisman conversation. He shouldn't, have to be kind of an afterthought.
Just say it. We need another Brady Quinn back at this establishment.
You're not wrong. But look,
that's what the world needs right now.
To your point, though, Sean, and I said this on Wednesday's show, Ian Book got Heisman votes, and he didn't play all that well when Notre Dame went 11-1 or whatever the year was. It's like, okay, if he's getting Heisman votes, and if that doesn't tell you
the real deal,
where Notre Dame stands as far
in
as
that conversation.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So if you're the quarterback at Notre Dame and Notre Dame is playing well, you're going to get love. Now, if you are a reason that they're playing well, you're going to get a lot of love. So, I mean, I'm just backing up your point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So you've got a good foundation, even though you had some fluctuation this year, lost a couple games you obviously shouldn't have lost, but now you're going to add that elite talent. You're going to keep building this thing. You're going to be better. And then playoffs, just like you guys said, I don't know about 2 playoff appearances, but, kind of what you wrapped up with and what USMA 87 is saying, playoff win. By year 3, I want to see a playoff win. And by year 3, it'll be a 12-team playoff. So, even
that's the thing. It's like a playoff win.
How are we going to count playoff wins at that point? Maybe 2 playoff wins, because you need to win the first one, and then you need to win another one to get, So,
because a playoff win right now means you're in the national championship, which, we are all looking at as, the next step, right? Notre Dame's been in the Final Four, but they can't win. They can't even really compete, if we're being honest. And so the playoff win was like the next step. And now a playoff win, I mean, look, if we're being honest with each other, where Notre Dame should be, they should be hosting a game in December if they're in the playoff, right? And so
wouldn't you just love to be hosting a game that with the weather that's going on out there right now?
Yes. Number one, because I'm indoors. But number
Sloppy,
2,
wet and nasty. Yeah.
That is a severe home field advantage for Notre Dame. Why would you not want to host? Why would you not? So winning that game, okay, you should win that game. I think it would be winning, the next one. So, yeah, I agree with you. It would be 2 once they go to the 12-teamer.
Yeah. So our buddy Stymie. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
What are you guys most concerned about going forward outside of quarterback that is the limiting factor to get to these, playoffs, to these wins, to these appearances? What is the limiting factor outside of the obvious quarterback situation for you guys? I'll kick it off and say I'm most concerned about wide receivers. I think you need someone to stretch the field. They're missing like a Golden Tate, a Michael Floyd.
That's with this class they've got coming in, starting with this class, it alleviates a lot of those concerns, knowing what they've got coming in. And again, building on what I was saying, continue to recruit at this level. They'll, more than replenish. They'll make up for it. Because I'm really happy looking at this incoming freshman class with what they've got at the skill positions. Now, like losing a guy like Dylan Edwards hurts because of, it's like he could be sort of an all-purpose kind of guy, not just a running back, but a slot. I think they can find another one of those guys, though. But still, like these incoming freshman receivers seem to be the real deal.
Agreed. And when you look at the depth chart, all over the team, I mean, I know it's so simple. I know it sounds incredibly simple, but they're a quarterback away. I mean, I think if you look at maybe I wouldn't mind another elite defensive lineman. And if Keon Keeley was obviously, and I hate to bring up the words, but if Keon Keeley was still in the class, I think everybody feels really good about where the defensive line is right now, right? And I think that linebacker, everybody's pretty darn happy about. I think at the secondary, everybody's pretty darn happy about. Offensively, I think, this is still tight end U, regardless of what any Georgia fan says. This is still tight end U, okay?
Offensive line U.
Offensive line U. I think you feel good about that. I think the running back room is as healthy as it's ever been. If you put a gun to my head and you force me to pick a position, I'd say wide receiver, but at the same time, they're going to be just fine there. They're a quarterback away from being an elite team. They just are. So once they get an elite quarterback, fellas, look out, because we're going to have a lot of fun talking about a lot of offensive success and a lot of team success at Notre Dame.
Stymie's talking about mental lapses, being his biggest
I like that.
hurdle, until they prove, and that does have to be addressed. Is this, again, but Vince doesn't think it matters, but you hired the mental, or you fired the mental coach.
Oh,
so.
They still got people. She's down there at LSU. How'd that work out?
I got a guy they can go talk to. I got a guy. Stymie was asking, what's this Friday goodness? Again, if you're joining us late, we're going to start doing a special Friday edition of Rapid Fire.
Boom, boom.
Sounds like we might have to start at 5 o'clock going forward. I don't know if that's going to work for Jesse or not. That's part of why we started at 4:30, but then,
Guess the pay has to be up.
Yeah, that's right. Jerry says, does it need to be an elite QB or above average with what they're building? I mean,
I know it's above average by definition.
What'd you say? I didn't hear what you said.
Talking over each other.
Yeah. Sorry, I said that Pine, in my opinion, was above average by definition.
Ooh, was he though?
Yeah. I'd call him.
I would say he was above average.
In some games, he was above average, but again, like if he's in class, he's a C+ B- student.
He's praying for the bell curve. I mean, he's praying for the curve. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. He had some games where he was A, but he also had some games where he was D. And what does A and D average out to? C, right? A's and D's equal C's.
Yeah.
For the whole semester.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. He was average. I mean, overall, he was average. I agree with you.
Like, if you look at Clemson, for example, if Clemson had either Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence right now, they would have been in the playoff this year. And that's part of, even though like Dabo's recruiting hasn't been like Alabama, Georgia level, it's, or even Ohio State, I think it's been a step behind that. But what has boosted them is the fact that when they have been good, when they have won their championships, they've had elite quarterback play. And that's the difference maker. I mean, football is a quarterback driven sport. If you have an elite quarterback, you can compensate for some of these other things.
Even more so now than in the past, because in the past, you could have a guy back there just throwing some play action, handing the ball off, and 3 yards in a cloud of dust, the whole thing. It's not going to win you a national title anymore. You have to have an offense. You have to have an offense that can score points, and so you need a quarterback that can distribute the ball and get it where it needs to go.
Look, I just want to make sure everyone understands. I'm not anti-Drew Pine because we've got, bless you, Jesse, and with what he was asked to do, I agree with Jesse. I'm not saying Drew Pine was not good. I said throughout this season that for the physical abilities that Drew Pine has and everything else, he overcame a lot. He played as well as he could have been expected to play, if not better. I mean, the guy threw 22 touchdown passes and he didn't turn it over at a high rate, but he was much more a game manager still. There were still plays to be made that he left on the field that are completely on him, whether it's throwing the ball into the ground, overthrows, or bigger picture, not seeing guys all together because he was locking in on one guy, right? So again, like he had stretches where he was an A student, but he also had stretches like Stanford where he completed 48% of his passes, and there were other games that were just a little bit better than that where he was a D student. And so I've got to look at the whole picture. I can't just look at his best. I've got to look at the whole picture when I evaluate Drew Pine, and that's why I say he's C+, B-. I'm not knocking Drew Pine for what he gave Notre Dame this season, so I don't want anybody to think that. But I've got to be a fair evaluator, and I've got to evaluate the entire body of work.
And I will also say that if we're grading on effort, right? If you're grading on,
to include that, yeah.
If you're grading on effort and you're grading on where he should be and where he ended up, you can say that he's above average. But I think he's an average quarterback to begin with at a top D1 school. And so if you're an average quarterback going in and you play to your ability, then you're an average quarterback. Like that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And I agree with you on that. I just don't see him being above average. He played above his own skill level at times but he also played below his skill level at times. So
okay, see now people are saying
I know
we
I
said bless you, Jesse, because he sneezed, but I also thought I saw bless you, Jesse, for for what you said about Pine. So either way, I so maybe we're more on the same page than I thought we were, but at the same time. All right. Now my screen appears to have locked up, and I've had some technology issues.
Boy,
here.
I've got the questions up. You want me to throw it at you?
Do you? Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
I think my screen is working now. So, do you buy or sell USC being better year in and year out, being better for Notre Dame as well? And Vince, you can start.
Oh, I get to start.
Yes.
No question, it's better. I buy it 100%. I would buy it even more if USC was the last game of the schedule every single year. I just think that that's going to be a marquee matchup. That's going to be when it falls on rivalry weekend. I think that's where it belongs. Playing Stanford on rivalry weekend does nothing for me. Nothing. And yes, to all the people out there, I realize Notre Dame lost to Stanford. I get it. But that's not a rivalry. And I want USC as the last game of the season every single year. And I want a good USC because I want it to sting and I want it to hurt USC fans when Notre Dame beats them. And I also want it to mean something to Notre Dame outside of the fact that it's a rivalry game, but I want it to mean something when it comes to strength of schedule. I want it to mean something when it comes to, hey, this is a game that's going to decide maybe who goes to the playoff or seeding within the 12-team playoff or whatever. I want that game to mean something. So USC has to be good in order for that to be the case, because I'm assuming Notre Dame is going to be good. So absolutely, USC being better is better for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as Vince. This is 100% buy, all gas, no brakes, 0% sell. And a lot of for the same stuff that Vince was saying. This game allows Notre Dame to add a stronger data point to their resume. And when everyone wants to complain every year about Notre Dame's weak schedule, and it turns out that they play a very solid schedule in the no conference and the no conference championship, when you can add a team like USC at the end of the season and beat them potentially, then it gives you that boost, and people can't really knock you anymore and say you played a weak schedule when you're beating a very high-end opponent towards the back half of your season when both teams are, developed and getting ready, gearing up for the end of the season. I just think that, again, it's another matchup that can potentially turn into Ohio State and Michigan type, matchup towards the end of the season where a lot is on the line and the winner is going to get in, to the playoff. And obviously it won't be as drastic now that the expansion is coming. But again, it's a good indicator of where you stand at the end of the season against a top level team and knowing, where you're going to be in preparation for the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I love this, and Vince and I have talked about it, and Vince just mentioned it, last game of the year, regardless of location. That is it, man. Like we talked about it, I think the week of the USC game, or either that or right afterwards. I think it would mean I just think that it vaults this rivalry, especially if both teams are going to be playoff contention type teams year after year. It vaults it to a completely different level. And we're going to talk about rivalries big picture here in a minute. I think college football really needs a national rivalry like that. And just what you guys have saying, it's another strong data point for Notre Dame if USC is not just a 500 pushover type team every year. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you don't care. You just want to see them beat Notre Dame, but at the same time, or beat USC. But at the same time, if they're both good, it obviously means even more, and it vaults you. And again, if it's at the end of the season and you're playing it during rivalry week, then it just puts an exclamation point, just like USC and like Caleb Williams this year and Matt Leinart before, and Reggie Bush and, Carson Palmer, all these Heisman winners, like it gives Notre Dame a chance to finish off strong with that, because, when you're doing it against a 500 USC team every other year, or Stanford team, I keep mixing my teams up. When you're doing it against a 500 Stanford team every other year, that doesn't do anything for your, like for your Heisman case. For USC, when you're playing Notre Dame on national TV, it means something, and that can mean something for Notre Dame as well if you were able to manipulate your schedule so that you're doing that. So, I love that, and again, it just elevates the rivalry even more when both teams are good. So my next question, are sports rivalries less fun now than they used to be? Specifically, like when it comes to the actual players and coaches involved in these rivalries. What do you guys think of the state of rivalries right now?
Go ahead, Jess. You can kick this one off. I don't always steal your thunder, man. You stole mine good in the first one, so
yeah, and then you just stole mine pretty good on the last one. It just great minds think alike. I think that rivalries still mean something, but I don't think that they mean as much as they used to. Just because of the natural state of college football, and the transfer portal is going to heighten this even more. Unfortunately now, and I'm not saying, how either way that I'm opposed or against this, but guys just don't give the commitment to universities like they used to anymore. Like, you don't have as many 4-year guys staying in these programs. And when you have 4-year guys at, whether it be Notre Dame and USC or, Michigan, Ohio State, those rivalries mean more because you're going to get 4 chances every year. And it's going to be the same guy likely that you just saw, the year before. And so you get tired of each other and you get tired of, either losing consistently or what it may be. But unfortunately, with the landscape of how college football is kind of operating today, I just don't think rivalries are as impactful to the players as they are to the fans.
I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of it also has to do with the state of college football and just the state of society right now. Back in the day, you grew up rooting for your team that was close to you. Your dream was to go to the team, go play for the team that you rooted for all along. Everything was just much more regionalized than it is now. I mean, technology and transportation and all of those things have broadened the landscape of college football. Now, Notre Dame has always obviously, recruited nationwide, but that's not the case for a lot of these other rivalries. Michigan, Ohio State, for example, like, it was a big deal if you lived in Ohio and went to Michigan, you know what I mean? Or vice versa. Now they're recruiting nationally. And so it's just, you don't grow up with the rivalry. So it doesn't mean quite as much. It's not, your whole family isn't involved. Like, it's just different than it is now, where every team, every school can recruit nationally if they want to, right? It was just so much more regionalized, and all of these rivalries are regional rivalries, right? You've got the Battle of South Carolina. We're just talking about South Carolina, Clemson, right? Ohio State, Michigan, Virginia, West Virginia. Like, those are all regional rivalries that, they're important, but they don't mean what they used to, because I don't think the fans are as bought in, and I don't think the players are as bought in for all the reasons Jess said. But then also, it's just not as regionalized as it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, and that's specific to college, and even in NFL or in whatever sport, professional sports, because of free agency. I think with guys moving around, like, you just with the free agency era, you used to have guys who would play most of their career with one team, and then as they got old, like Joe Montana would go to the Kansas City Chiefs, or whoever it would happen to be. Marcus Allen went to the Chiefs for that, But most guys throughout the 70s and into the 80s and early 90s, before free agency came about, like, they would stay with the same team. Like, I can remember, like, back in my day, when, like, there was this Dallas Cowboys Washington Redskins game, and there one of the Washington players made a comment, something about Dallas is coming to their funeral this weekend or something like that, and somebody threw a funeral wreath into the Cowboys locker room, and then the Cowboys beat them. And I think it was Harvey Martin picked up the funeral wreath. He walked down the hallway. He opened up the Washington locker room, and he threw the wreath into the locker room. It was like, there were like, then you think of like the Notre Dame and USC and the Trojan horse and, those kind of moments. You just don't see that anymore in sports today. Again, it's much more about the fans, because the fans stay year to year, but it's just so different with the players themselves. Like Caleb Williams with the fingernail paint, it looked kind of stupid, but on the one hand, it's like, well, at least
I like it.
At least someone's a little bit spicy. It's like,
there's edginess to it.
That's right. I miss the edginess. That's exactly it. I miss the edginess that used to come with so many of these rivalries. It's just different today.
It's completely different. 100%. And you make a good point about free agency. That changes rivalries when it comes to the pros. But what's the transfer portal, guys? It's free agency. That's what it is. And so guys are going to be switching allegiances and uniforms at the drop of a hat. I mean, Wilson Contreras going to the Cardinals. Just want to keep bringing that up and how disappointing that is.
Wait, that actually happened, Vince?
Yes. 5-year deal, dude.
When?
Yeah, I broke it to Vince 2 days ago. It was in rapid fire, and he didn't even know it happened until he saw
I didn't even know it happened until right now.
Rapid fire. He signed with the Cardinals, and I think they just made it official either today or last night. Or
all
something.
Right, guys, I think it's time I got to log off.
Dude, I'm reading the rapid fire in preparation for the show. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like that hurt me.
Cubs tears.
But like, he's gonna go play for the Cardinals. Like that did not happen.
You can't
30
do that.
years ago.
Just like Stymie said, guys going from the Yankees to Red Sox was like a sin. Like you should be thrown into jail for doing that. Now it's just like, oh, okay, well, it just doesn't matter anymore with the free agency. And I think Lou Holtz, Thunder, and Bolts brings up another good point. With these conference realignments, we're really going to see rivalries kind of lose
exactly
touch.
It. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yep.
And
and if Notre Dame has to play USC in the first 3 games of the season, that's going to be so stupid.
Because it just doesn't mean as much. The teams aren't the same 3 games in that they are 10 or 11 games in.
Agreed.
Yeah, and again, like Notre Dame USC at the start of the season is completely different than if they're playing in November.
Right.
You know. So this one, I didn't include something along the lines of this, but we might as well include it because Rob asked it. What's more of a sham, Rocket losing to the Heisman to Detmer or Bowers winning the Mackey over Michael Mayer?
I wasn't around for Rocket losing, the Heisman to Detmer, but for me, just looking at it at an outside perspective, the Heisman is obviously more coveted, right? Like it's the best player in the whole country. We're not just talking about one specific tight end, one specific position group. But to me, the Michael Mayer thing is a travesty because of just look at the stats. Like he has a better, he has better receiving yards, better receiving touchdowns, more receptions overall. And he's a better run blocker grade, per PFF. And then you look into the fact that he's the number 1 target for Pine, and it's well known that he's the number 1 target for Pine. And so when guys are doubling him, or the game plan is revolved around zone schemes that are going to, bracket Mayer, and he's still getting the ball, it's that much more impressive. Like, Mayer had not as much talent around him to make up for the facts. When then Bowers has, he's just another guy out there. He essentially could, he's the number 2 or 3 receiving threat in that offense. And to me, that I just don't understand how that wasn't taken into consideration, knowing that Pine was looking for Mayer almost every third down, and teams still couldn't stop him, and he had better stats than Bowers.
Yep. You put that together so well. And I mean, I'm looking at the Mackey Award website, right?
Do they give a breakdown of how close it was?
Well, they give out the tight end of the week award, right? Guess who won it 3 times, and guess who won it once?
It's just like every stat you pull up says that Mayer was better, but for some reason, Bowers has this eye test where he's apparently better.
Bowers is a little twitchier guy, so I don't know.
Absolutely. I get that.
Fell in love with that. I'm just going to make a case for my man Rocket, because Rocket is like the first, like Tim Brown, it's like you like Tim Brown. Rocket was so freaking electric, man. And you look at that Orange Bowl, total sham, that punt got called back on a clip to begin with. But even before that, Ty Detmer threw 28 interceptions the year he won the Heisman over Rocket Ismail. Are you kidding? Now he threw 45, but you can't throw 20 plus interceptions and be called the best player in college football that year, especially when you've got a game changer like Rocket Ismail. Now, he didn't pile up, these massive stats, but that's because he could impact the game in every facet, whether it was punt return, kick return. Hey, Bo Schembechler, you might not want to kick to him the second time. Oh, bye-bye. There he goes, another touchdown. And, again, the punt returns, whether he's receiving, whether he's running the ball, that was a total sham. I completely agree that Michael Mayer should have done it. Should have won the Mackey, but I got to go back to my man Rocket, because that was a total joke. Ty Detmer was a great college quarterback, but they were playing in a wide open whack at that point. They're throwing the ball all over the place. And again, I don't care if you throw 45 touchdowns if you throw almost 30 interceptions. That's a joke.
Those are Jameis Winston numbers.
Yeah, that's right. Vince, do you have anything else to add on the Mackey before?
Yes, I do, because it took me a second to come up with it, but I found on their website the criteria for the John Mackey Award. Okay. And I think we can all agree that Brock Bowers is faster than Michael Mayer. He's more of an athlete than Michael Mayer. Okay. I'll give you that. That's why they use him on end arounds and whatever. Okay. The number one criteria for the John Mackey Award, it says it should be a, quote, true tight end in the style of John Mackey, play on the interior line with blocking responsibilities and possess the potential to play tight end at the professional level. How often was Brock Bowers attached to the line and blocking as well as Michael Mayer? Okay, I'm sorry. It's right there in your criteria, and you still messed it up.
Votes got to be taken away.
Terrible. Just terrible. I'm sorry. That's horrible.
Yeah.
So, and
I completely agree. I can't disagree with that.
And Rocket was what? Was that 90, 91?
90.
Was it 90? Yeah. So I don't remember that per se because I was 9.
I'm older than you boys.
Yeah. I know Jesse was a twinkle in the eye at that point.
Not even close.
Yeah.
He was still years away at that point. One other thing that came up today, I saw Tom Noy tweet about this. The ACC, Notre Dame men's basketball tried to have its game time either moved, its game against the University of Miami either moved to New Year's Eve or change the time so that it's not being played at the exact same time as the Gator Bowl. But guess what? ACC won't allow it.
Shocker.
So, yeah.
So we're going to have to basically nobody's going to watch the second half of the basketball game is what you're saying. So, because it's going to be an hour difference because the bowl game kicks off at 3:30. The basketball game's at 2:30. You're going to be able to watch the first half, and then everybody's going to flip over to football. No offense to basketball, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just glad the women play on the 29th. We're at Miami on the 29th, and then we come back.
It's rough for you, my friend.
Well, you know. Not going to complain. Fill in the blank. Baker Mayfield getting a win with the Rams Thursday night after being on the team for less than 48 hours is blank.
Pretty impressive, really. I mean, the three of us all know how difficult it is to play football, one. Number two, to learn a playbook in 2 days, excuse me. Like, that's virtually impossible. And then to actually go out and execute an offense as complex as McVay's offense is for the Rams, being on the team for 2 days, I think that's pretty darn impressive. And I don't necessarily enjoy giving Baker Mayfield a whole lot of props, but in this regard, I'm going to, because that was pretty. And of course, they're going to slim down the playbook and all of those different things, but still, you're in the NFL.
And there were times he didn't know the play, like they had to call a timeout. And, like there was like miscommunication where he thought he was handing off to the right. They ran to the left. Those kind of things happen still.
Absolutely.
But he led a comeback at the end of the game.
So I'm not sure if that says more about him or it says more about the Raiders, but still, it's impressive. It's the NFL.
Yeah, I thought what Baker Mayfield did last night was actually outstanding. It is very difficult and it is very impressive at the same time that he was able to come into this, this entire new franchise not just 2 days ago, and he's going to get into the game and ultimately, lead them back and win the game. And I'm just going to say this because it's always fun to take shots at Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson, if he could score 17 points this season, the Broncos add probably 3, 4, 5 more wins this season. So it's like Russell Wilson is this quote unquote potential Hall of Fame quarterback, but he can't muster up 17 points, majority of his games. And if he could, as this Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's been in this system the entire year, and he can't even win games. So that to me adds another layer of impressiveness for Baker Mayfield in my eyes.
So I've got a new niche for Baker Mayfield. Okay. Since he's on his third team in the last year now, and he can just fly in after getting waived by the Panthers and sign up in 48 hours. he can be the new Wolf of the NFL, like the Wolf from Pulp Fiction. Like, he's the fixer. He comes in, it's like he kind of lays back, he's unattached, and like as the season goes on, everyone loses a quarterback at some point. You need an emergency quarterback. So Baker Mayfield just kind of works out. Maybe he's got Terrell Owens there with him working out because Terrell keeps saying, that he's going to come back and play too. And so Baker Mayfield just kind of, it's like, okay, so the Jets just lost a quarterback. Now Baker's going to fly to New York. He's going to sign up. He leads a comeback win for the Jets. The guy gets healthy and Baker moves on. It's on to the next team. So Baker can be the Wolf of the NFL. That's what I think he should do. That's the new role.
I like that.
I'm down. I would love to see somebody come in and do that. That would be impressive.
That would be funny, wouldn't it? Like,
yes,
a guy plays for 8 different teams in the same year, and leads like 8 comebacks or 6 comebacks,
that would be
on
awesome,
short notice.
Frankly.
That'd be funny. Okay, so we've got the Army-Navy game tomorrow afternoon, Heisman Trophy ceremony tomorrow night as well. Which are you most likely to watch?
I'll be unapologetic about this one. I tune into the Navy and Army game, but I can't tell you the last time I've sat down and watched it, beginning to end. To me, I like to see who's going to win the Heisman. So personally, I am going to be more likely to tune in to see who wins the Heisman. I know that's very maybe American of me, college football of me, whatever you want to say, anti-rivalry of me. I don't care. Like, the president sits on both sides. It's a big deal, but I've just never gotten into it because as much as it means Navy and Army aren't usually very good football teams, and I just don't want to sit and watch essentially bad football for 3.5, 4 hours. I'm sorry.
Well, I understand where Jess is coming from the excitement of that football game from an X's and O's standpoint. I get it, right? Totally. From an entertainment standpoint. I will also say that this particular year, any particular year, the Heisman ceremony is boring. It is brutal. It is so overdone by ESPN that it is painful to watch, frankly. And especially this year when everybody knows who's going to win.
Yeah.
Okay. There is nothing that anybody is thinking different. Right? It's going to be Caleb Williams. He's going to win by a landslide when they actually put out the final deal. I did read something that they're going to bring 4 to the Heisman finals every single year. And there's going to be years, probably like this one, where like the 3rd and 4th place guy is going to be distant.
So they're going to start bringing 4 every year, no matter what?
Starting last year. Yeah, that's what I read. So brutal, number one. And number 2, I'm just the over-processed show that they have is horrible. So I'm all for you. Sign me up for the alternate jerseys with the Army Navy, everything that it stands for. It's an actual football game where I don't know what the outcome is going to be. That's what I'll take.
Yeah, so typically what I do with the Heisman is like I'll sit around, and Jesse knows how I like to channel surf. I will sit around and I know it's on. And when are they giving the award? With 5 minutes left in the show, so I come in and it's like flip back and forth and watch the very end just to see who actually gets the award. Army Navy, sometimes it's like that as well with that game. Like I can't remember if it was last year or the year before they had some snow. One of these last few years they've had some snow, and it seemed a little bit more interesting. And it's kind of like the same deal with that, like Vince and I have gotten used to seeing quite a bit of that style of football. And when both teams are playing that style of football, how exciting really is it? And that's kind of how I've done it with Army Navy. It's like, is it a close game? Okay, I'll tune in and watch the end, maybe watch the 4th quarter or something like that. Now, for me specifically tomorrow, and I didn't realize this until after I wrote this question, I've got a basketball game I've got to call at noon, and then about an hour after that ends, we've got a Marcus Freeman press conference. So it's actually going to end up wiping out quite a bit of, I think the Army Navy starts at 3. So I'll still get some of it. Maybe it'll be on in the background while I'm trying to get some work done.
Yeah.
But other than that, odds are I've got a better chance of watching, the Heisman than the other. But I probably would have watched a little more Army Navy than the Heisman ceremony had I had more opportunity.
And I just got on my soapbox and talked about all of this, and the reality is I will see none of the game because I'm busy. So
see, there you go.
I know. Yep, I'll be busy. So there it is.
All right, let's finish with this one tonight. The National Sports Media Association announced its finalists for the Sportscaster of the Year. Adam Amin of Fox Sports and NBC Chicago is on the list, as is Al Michaels, Ian Eagle, Jim Nantz, Jason Benetti, White Sox guy who does some other national stuff, Joe Buck, Joe Davis, who is now the voice of the World Series and also does NFL on Fox, Kevin Harlan, Mike Tirico, and the final person on the list is Mina Kimes from ESPN. So you've got all these play-by-play guys and Mina Kimes on the list. So
does she do play-by-play? What does she do?
She does not.
So. I didn't.
She does
so.
like NFL Live and some other stuff.
Yeah,
that's just around the horn. She does
not sportscasting. That's not
podcasting.
Sorry.
So who's your favorite?
So for me, it's kind of a group of guys that I really enjoy listening to, and I know, and I'll give you my favorite overall. But obviously I like Kevin Harlan. I think he's really good. I like Ian Eagle. I think he's really good. And those are primarily radio guys, and maybe that's why. But like I like listening to those two guys, to be honest with you. But I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. But I really like listening to Jason Benetti, and I know he's a White Sox guy, and I don't like listening to him on White Sox games because I don't. But when he does other stuff, and he does a lot of other stuff, I always kind of get a little excited when I hear that he's going to be the play-by-play guy. I think he does a really, really good job. I like listening to him. So he's more of a TV radio guy or a TV play-by-play guy from where I watch him, right?
Right.
And then the other guys, I like them, and I think it's just because they're radio guys, and that's what I've always done is radio with you. So I kind of lean that direction.
I thought it was pretty criminal that you weren't on the list first and foremost.
Oh, well, thanks.
Travesty.
Myself, they'd have to dig pretty deep to find my name, I'm sure.
I mean, they put Mina Kimes on there, dude. Okay, so just saying.
Yeah, so I'm getting rid of Mina Kimes. Nothing against her. She's just not really,
she's not a sportscaster.
Yeah,
like it's not. Yeah.
Al Michaels
she is, but it's a completely different kind of sportscaster than the rest of these guys. It's like you've got 8 play-by-play guys and Mina Kimes, or 9 play-by-play.
Yeah,
I don't even know how she ended up on that list.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna also say I wasn't a fan of Joe Davis in the World Series, so he's off my list. I like Ian Eagle. He's just not necessarily my favorite. I like Jim Nantz because of the different variety of things that he does. College football, NFL. I'm pretty sure he gets on there during the Masters as well. I like Mike Tirico. I think he's a very solid guy, just like Al Michaels. But for me, I'm going to go with I love nothing more than sitting down and listening to some Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller on NBA on TNT, and then they kick it back to the studio, and you got Chuck, you got Shaq, you got Ernie, you got, Kenny the Jet. I love that whole, that whole production. So for me, I'm a really big Kevin Harlan guy. But a very close second is Adam Amin, actually. And I respect him a lot because of that. He's just kind of grinded out. Like he started out doing, women's college basketball and the national championship. And his role has kind of grown and progressed more and more. And I've just seen him from the beginning and where he's at now. I've always enjoyed his voice. Anytime that he's doing something, it's a good, good broadcast. And so I give a lot of respects for Adam Amin, but I just don't think he's quite there yet with the legend Kevin Harlan.
I mean, legend is what it is, and it's at least like it does my heart well, Jesse, to know that I actually did raise you well, that we're all in the Kevin Harlan camp, because my affinity for Kevin Harlan. I'm curious because what I'll do a lot of times, and my wife makes fun of me for this sometimes, is like, it'll be an NBA game I don't really even care that much about, but if I know Kevin Harlan is calling it, I will record it just so I can listen to him and kind of, get my Kevin Harlan
cadence
a little bit, the timbre, and the whole. Is he doing more Eastern games or the later Western games now? Because every time I flip on, like on Tuesday, I don't hear him calling anything these days.
I think it's a general mix. And so it just depends. It varies. I know you're not a frequent fan, so if you
No, but
hop in,
see, like
you might miss
Harlan,
him.
one, he's a University of Kansas guy. Two, when I was in college, he was the radio voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, and all my college roommates were Chiefs fans. And we did the old, it was back in the day before you had the 7-second delays where you could turn down the sound on the TV and you'd hear the radio guy. And Kevin Harlan was just awesome. And so like that's part of where it came from. And then kind of along the lines, a few years down the road, he kind of gave me some career advice after coming to talk to one of our classes as well. So I'm like, I'm never going to leave my guy, Kevin Harlan. He is always right up there at the top of the list. Now,
it's
all
just
that
the smoothest
said,
voice.
It is. And it's like, if you think that he gets excited now, you should have heard him when he was doing radio, because it was like next level when he was still doing Chiefs radio back in the day. The Al Michaels thing last night, and Vince texted this to me. Al Michaels, and I'm watching the game when this happened, he just slipped into, they started talking about the PA guy, and the Rams public address guy, does the whose house, and then like the people are supposed to say my house, and basically Al Michaels was like, I'm tired of this PA guy yelling whose house.
I saw a tweet last night.
Al Michaels is like, he will also critique the quality of these Thursday night games that he is doing. He has ripped the quality. You don't hear announcers ripping the quality of the games that they're doing very often. So I've got to give Al Michaels high points for all that.
Hilarious. I mean, I thought it was like when I sent that to you, it wasn't a knock on him. I thought it was fantastic because you said something about how, NBA PA guys are always kind of hyping up the crowd and all that. Like, that is not the role of a football announcer at all.
Right.
The football announcer is there to give information. You are the public address announcer. That's it. That's all. Like, honestly, if I'm being honest, I think that the Notre Dame PA announcer is a little too enthusiastic. I think he tries a little bit too hard with some of the stuff that he's doing, right?
Yeah.
It's like he overcompensates because he's taking over for a legend. You know what I mean? But it's different in the NBA or in basketball. Like, you are directly involved in hyping up the crowd in a basketball arena. Football's completely different. You've got to know the difference when you're a PA guy. And I just don't think that guy in LA knows the difference.
No. It's like you're basically at an NBA game, you're basically a DJ, as opposed to
pretty much.
That's kind of what you are. You're a DJ / MC. At an NFL stadium, it's like really like third down should be the biggest thing. It's like that's when you really want to get the crowd hyped, it seems like. And like when you listen to some different announcers, third down. But this guy is like, you shouldn't have to keep reminding the crowd. Maybe it's just because it's Los Angeles and nobody cheers out there. I don't know.
It's a really good point, though, about the DJ thing. Jess, you remember when you were in high school? You guys would come over and give me songs to play when I was doing PA? Like, that's part of it. Like, you guys knew that when certain songs would come on and like you get hype and all that. I mean, that's
the crowd takes over and then the team feeds off of it. And that was our job. We were there to support and hype up our team. That's why we were the best student section.
And I was there to hype you guys up.
Like that's why we were the best duo until our good friend, Mr. Frank Groves, took away all our fun.
Oh boy. One quick one from Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts. Haven't heard a lot about Groupie. Is he returning? How are we feeling about kicker next year? Groupie is out of eligibility. He has kicked for 5 years. He kicked for 4 years at Arkansas State. This was his 5th year. So
kicked himself out of college.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, he wouldn't have even had this year at Notre Dame. So Groupie is done. He has no remaining eligibility. I did see today, I think it was today, that they were hosting a kicker from somewhere, and I can't remember off the top of my head. So
interesting.
Hosting a kicker. It sounded like this.
They'll have Zach Yoakum and they'll have Josh Bryan back. Those are two.
Are they
I don't remember if one is scholarship, one's wall. I can't remember the specifics, but they've got those two guys. They're both going to be sophomores in eligibility. So they've got 2 kickers on the roster. But if they're, they're always looking for somebody better, and they should. You're always looking to enhance your roster. I have no problem with that.
We're gonna pull a Jim Harbaugh little sleepover with our kicker.
I sleep over with my kicker all the time. So.
Little slumber party.
Yeah. It's weird.
All right. It is a little weird, but
weird, man. Like, but that's Jim Harbaugh, so it is what it is. But punter-wise, they're going to be great. I think Bryce McPherson is a really, really good punter. So punt, and he didn't play at all this year. So he was injured at the beginning, and he was supposed to be the kickoff man. And Zach Yoakum.
Well, that's how he got injured. I think it sounded like he wore his leg out doing kickoffs and stuff like that, and trying to double duty a little bit as the backup punter.
So he didn't play at all. So he's going to have all 4 years of eligibility left. So they're going to be set at punter for quite a while.
Yeah.
We some departing homework for all the fans here. This trio is looking for the specific segment.
We forgot to mention the whole thing. What's the name for do we need a special name for this Friday rapid fire? Like, we're going to start, it's not going to be like full shows on Fridays. It's only rapid fire. So do we need a special name for this Friday edition of Rapid?
Yeah, bring your best ideas to next Friday. Winner gets a prize from me. Undetermined what that prize is, but you'll get something.
That's great. So it'll be the three of us every Friday, pending craziness. But it's the three of us doing rapid fire every Friday. We need a name. I think we need a name personally. I think this show needs a name. So that's where I'm at.
Yes, thanks. Yes, the Stooges is already taken. That's right.
Pretty good though.
Who are these Stooges you speak of? That's a Seinfeld reference, by the way. All right. Well, appreciate you stopping by tonight. Hit the like button if you would. We do appreciate it. Think about that name for next week. We will be here next week. We might be closer to 5 because,
we'll see.
Brian's going to have to catch his breath eventually Friday afternoon. So,
and Vince is going to have to get out of school.
I know. I'm going to have to hang up on CPS.
Maybe we'll compromise. 4:45, 5 o'clock. Who knows?
We'll have to see.
Boo to We Are Marshall. Come on.
Ouch.
Man, what have I done? Marshall, I haven't done anything. I shouted you out yesterday. You backed me up on, some stuff, and here we are.
Might have a front runner already. Friday fire.
Like
Rapid fire. Yeah.
All right.
Well, that is going to do it.
Whoa, rocket rebound. It's a hard pass.
I mean, just might as well just call it the Menage. I mean, come on.
I like Derek's, but who's the ugly? Because I know it's not me.
I mean.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Hit the like button if you would. Vince and I will be back on Monday at our regular time, 6 o'clock. And, of course, Jess will be back with me on Tuesday as well on IB Nation Sports Talk. We will talk to you then. Have a